Hello everybody and welcome. This is it. This is the big one. This is the finale. We have Star Trek Discovery's third season has come to a close this week. As you know what's going to happen, we're going to go through the ups and downs. We're going to give everything that we liked an up, everything that we didn't like a down. Really keen to see what everyone thought of this season overall and this episode, so please remember, drop your opinions in the comments. If you're here in the live chat, hello, thank you very much for joining us, and remember, all of this is going to get covered again in the podcast on Monday, but for now, I am Seán Ferrick for TrekCulture, and let's get to it. Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode 13, That Hope Is You, Part 2. Okay guys, this is an episode that's gonna get opinions from people. And, you know, rightly so. It's a season finale. How does it rank compared to, say, Will You Take My Hand or Such Sweet Sorrow Part 2? I would say, going into this, that it doesn't quite reach the emotional highs of Such Sweet Sorrow Part 2. I think we still have, the end of Season 2 is still probably, you know, the finale where Discovery just ticked every single box and got it right. In this episode, of course, we open with Osiris back on Discovery. Vance is not best pleased about that. We have what we didn't get last week. We have Saru and Culber are with Su'Kal on the planet. Now we are treated to an absolutely gorgeous image of a Gormagander flying by. Gormagander, gorgeous. That design from season 1, I mean, we haven't seen it very much since then, and I'm delighted we get to see a lovely flyby of it here. Because one thing that Star Trek Discovery has done so well, I mean so well, is the VFX and the visuals on this show. Can you imagine the original series with these kind of effects and this kind of budget behind it? I mean, this, I think, is the version of the future that Roddenberry would have been on board with, I think, if audiences had seen it then. Because, and the reason I say that now is, you have these stunning visual effects, and by the way, effects up, just in case I wasn't being clear there. Burnham and Vance have had a very strange relationship this season. She is a woman out of time, although she is the most acclimatized to the 32nd century out of everyone on Discovery, because of course she got the extra time with Book. So in many ways she has been a guide, but she's also been somewhat stymied by the character growth that she's gone through seasons 1 and season 2. And some of the criticisms, which I do feel are fair, is that every now and again, at seemingly random, she will flip back to an earlier stage of the character arc, and it didn't really ring great. It doesn't feel like a phone call between a commander and an admiral. So look, not to slate the whole thing, of course, she is trying to save everyone, trying to save the ship, trying to make sure everyone doesn't get killed, and that's Burnham all over. That is a good thing. But does it ring a little bit kind of, you know, hey, trust me, I got this, everything's fine, it's grand. Like, she's surrounded by bodies, and they're surrounded by a fleet of ships. So it was a bit odd. I mean, there was other ways, I feel, to get them out of that shield, if that was the main issue there. It stands out a little bit for the wrong reasons. It's not that they're not selling it. I mean, Burnham has her usual intensity. Vance, I think, one thing I actually really liked was how Vance just kind of hung up the call. It was a real kind of, and that was good. But the, you know, extended, I got this, while Osiris sits there nicely going, no, continue, have your call. It's fine, it's cool. Little bit odd for me, so I'm afraid that was a down for me now this week. So we have Tilly and the rest of the crew. So it closed last week with the arrival of the Dot 23s, and we have Zora is in those Dot 23s. So great, we finally have the sphere data, the sphere consciousness is going to do something, right? First of all, they're in the Spore Bay and they're trying to get back control of the ship. That's great. So Osira decides she's going to turn off life support and slowly kill the crew for no other reason than they will now have a slog of a walk to get to the nacelles to enact Burnham's plan of, disrupt the programmable matter that's between the nacelle and the rest of the ship, drop them out of warp. The plan itself, Burnham's plan, is quite a good one. Osiris is not. Osiris is getting it down. Kill him. I mean, don't, because we like these people, but there is no reason for which we can see that Osira would not have simply just vented all of the air into space, other than to give us this, oh, we have to get there, oh, time is running out, and it's all very emotional and over the top. However, let me flip back to an up here. The interaction between the crew, Tilly taking command, and of course, you know where I'm going with this, Owasakon's sacrifice. She tells them all she loves them as she goes on what she believes is a suicide mission. And that's what we're here for. A criticism of Discovery overall is the over-reliance on having Burnham in every single shot. I've mentioned before, I worry that Sonequa Martin-Green must be suffering exhaustion by the end of every single season because she's in almost every frame. Here, you don't have Burnham interacting with these people, but you do have a real sense of them being a crew. Now, yes, okay, I'm fine, absolutely fine with how they explain that Owasakon is the only one who's able to get there. That's fine. Everyone else seems to kind of fall a little bit quickly, but that's cool. These things happen in these kind of heist situations. That's fine. And it is genuinely emotional when she is going away with that bomb. So that is enough, and that is something I want to see carried over into season 4. We got a lot more of it this season, so that itself is a positive about season 3. I do want to see that going forward into season 4 and beyond, because we have a good crew there. Use them. Please use them. Away from Discovery, while it's racing toward the dilithium planet, on the planet, Adira arrives with Culber and Saru. Now, because of the Hollow Matrix, and it seems like they're doing a little bit of a best of when it comes to the makeup, Adira is in full Zahian makeup, and I think that looks really cool. I'm on board with that. I think it's a good design. I'm glad to see it again, and I really do like how they brought Grey into, I suppose, the real world. The Hollow Matrix recognizes Grey as a real person, and therefore Grey arrives in full Vulcan makeup, and it's a lovely, tender scene. But more than that, it's of course seeing Culber and Saru react to Grey's presence, and quite frankly, they don't blink an eye. That's what we're here for. Now, I feel, and I wonder, how do you feel about this as well? I feel that the entire depiction of Grey in this episode, because it was short, and there wasn't really much of a, other than Grey walking through the edge of the Hollow Matrix, there wasn't really an awful lot of reason for Grey to be there. I feel it's setting up how they will somehow get Grey into the real world, potentially with a mobile emitter. I mean, maybe they can transfer consciousness into a hologram, or android, anything like that. Picard has already introduced the idea of a golem, so there's easily ways of getting Grey into the real world, and I think that very much was the point of the season. I think a point of Grey's story this season is that we're going to see Grey next season. On its own, it was nice. It was a little bit rushed, but I'm still going to give Grey, Adira, and Culber particularly an up in this episode. Again, I've said this before, I'm gonna say it again. Wilson Cruz can do no wrong, and Hugh Culber is a fantastic character. I think Blue Del Barrio has been great this season as well. I think Ian Alexander has been great this season, and the interplay between them all, it has been genuine. It feels heartfelt. So I am here for that. So that is definitely an up from me. You knew it was coming. The burn. Okay, so spoiler. I'm not downing it, I'm not upping it. There was nothing more to it than we got before. I know people, and certainly myself, we were hoping that we were going to see more than, Su'Kal lost his temper, which is what happened, was connected to the Dilithium planet. Millions of people died. And of course they do address the fact, Su'Kal couldn't have known. And absolutely, it's not Su'Kal's fault. He is responsible, but it's not his fault. And I guess it just would have been nice if there was something more to it than, God, boy, you done crashed on the wrong planet. And it went bad for him and it went bad for everybody else. And, the fact, I think before there was a bit of a question of, did we question why he had this emotional outbreak? No, never questioned why he had the emotional outbreak. Of course, he watched his mother die in front of him. It's horrible. It's that this one child on this one planet had this one emotional breakdown at this one bad time, and millions of people died. And for a season mystery, well, look, we know how I feel about the burn. But it's neither an up nor a down this week because we've addressed that already. I do wish they had gone either further with it, that maybe there was some other hand at play here. There wasn't. It is what it is. Okay, so that's, I believe the burn storyline is done. There was a lovely scene where he watches back the holograms of his mother. It's sad, but yeah, for a character who has effectively been introduced for all of 40 minutes at this point, I felt it. Su'Kal seems to be a fully fleshed character. Now, one thing that is most definitely getting an up is how Saru handles everything. If I can get away with a cheeky double up here, Saru and Doug Jones, I want to give them both an up on, individually, but I will settle if it's just the one up. I'll settle with that because Doug Jones for me was the MVP of this season. He very much saves the day with just compassion and just empathy, and he listens to Su'Kal, and I get the feeling of a bigger brother. He becomes a caretaker. Now, I don't know if I'm entirely satisfied with where the episode leaves Saru at the end, but having said that, it does make sense in the context of this story. I very, very, very much like the relationship that builds almost immediately between Saru and Su'Kal. As I say, it's definitely, I would say, fraternal, that he is going to care for Su'Kal. He needs to help Su'Kal come into the real world. How Doug Jones still holds himself as alien in a human body, and oddly wonderful as it was to see Doug Jones out of makeup, seeing him back in makeup almost feels more right at this stage. That moment where the camera pans and you see Saru is back, just wonderful. So I have literally nothing bad whatsoever to say about Saru in this episode. Overall, Su'Kal, really like the character. Back on board the ship, you have a death fake out, and it's annoying, and they're never much fun. The reason I think I'm gonna be a bit harsh on this one is because they do 2 death fake outs within 10 minutes. They do Owosakon, and I stand by my up for that entire scene where she says goodbye, but maybe, right, let's be fair, maybe the down that I'm giving here is to how they used Zora in this death fake out. You have this infinite mind that is inside these robots, and she effectively works as a blast shield. And I know she's not killed off. I mean, we get her again repaired at the end of the episode with a, what was that? Oh, it was Reno, she's gone. So do you know what? Let me rephrase that. The down that I'm giving for this scene, I'll leave the fake out aside, but I am giving the down for how Zora was used in this episode. She arrived in the last second of last week in the .23s, and we thought, brilliant. This sphere data, this one that would not allow Discovery to be destroyed at the end of season 2, this one that, you know, put on a movie night for the crew in season 3, now can effectively be R2-D2. Okay, but do something more. I don't want Annabelle Wallis to be relegated to voicing the Dot 23 and doing the previously on Discovery thing. Love to hear her voice. As I said last week, please, books on tape, I will pay for it, but just give us something more. So that's my frustration with how Zora was used this week. I thought it was not worthy of how they've built up that character. But of course, having said that, delighted Owasikon wasn't killed, delighted that the crew, again, not killed. I have a question for all of you at the moment. Now, some of you might actually know the answer to this because you might have got either the Art of Star Trek Discovery book, you might have got some of the models, and you might see some of the schematics, which will tell you how big Discovery is. But did anybody else realize that Discovery is about 14 times the size of Space Dock? I gave it up earlier for the VFX and the images for this episode, and I stand by it 100%. One thing I am giving it down for is that wild turbo lift chase. I like the idea. I like the idea of a siege and running through the ship. That's not my issue. It's the fact of you could fly a Galaxy class starship through the interior of Discovery, and it seems to be somewhat inconsistent. Now, I mean, having said that, I could probably pull up a schematic and go, oh, da, 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 which would be fair, and I would be wrong in this situation, but how it came across was a bit like, lads, come on. You know, it takes less time to walk the length and breadth of Deep Space Nine than it does to go on this mad turbo lift chase. I really did like the interplay between Zara and Book, and you do not insult Grudge in front of Book, in front of the audience, or in front of me. So yeah, so, you know, say a bad word about Grudge and I will also push you out of a moving turbo lift that's flying across the Aegean Sea. I like that Book can pilot the spore drive. There is a down to be said in plot contrivances for this week. It is very handy that Book can pilot the spore drive. Okay. What was going on in the data core? It reminds me of, you know, those things that where you used to put your hand in and the nails would come out the other side, or your face. It was like that. So that, like, that's not my problem, but what was the point of that? It was a bit like, do you know what it reminds me of? Okay. You know that episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets transported to the prisoner island and the giant balloon comes and, you know, comes toward him and he bursts it with a fork. And, you know, the character looks to the other and goes, why did you think a giant balloon would stop them? Shut up, that's why. Osira pushes Burnham into the programmable matter, and Burnham then shoots her and walks out. And I could imagine the scene of Burnham going, why did you think programmable matter would stop me? Shut up, that's why. I was underwhelmed. I was very underwhelmed with Osira's death. And actually, to be mean, another down this week is all of the good work they did with Osira last week. Boom, out the airlock this week. Janet Kidder, I mean, how great was she last week, and how much did we all enjoy what she was doing last week? This week, wasted. Villain, twirly mustache, you know, even the one close relationship that we had, which was her and Aurelio, she turns around and strangles him out. Wasted. Sorry guys, wasted. You know, we hoped for more with Osira, we didn't get it. So yeah, for me, Osira as well this week was a down. It seems like I didn't like the episode. I actually did like the episode quite a bit. I thought it was very, very rushed. I thought there were issues with it. I thought that it could have done a better job of maybe slowing down the pace a tiny little bit and letting some stories play out a little bit better. I think particularly with Osira here. The elephant in the room is, do you think Burnham was the right choice for captain of Discovery? And for me, I think the jury's out. It's out. I don't like that they've sidelined Saru, and although I like his story, I don't like that he's taking a leave of absence, and so Burnham is now the captain. And Burnham, her arc, her character seems to revolve around having someone to rebel against. Who can she rebel against but Vance, if she's captain of Discovery? Now, Discovery seems to have been earmarked as being a transport ship for at least the next while they mine the dilithium, and that itself is fine. So I feel that we will have a bit of a time jump between seasons 3 and 4, which will hopefully allow the Federation time to build back up again. Not massively sold on, again, how they handled the end of the Emerald Chain. Like Osira described this great organization that was, almost not democratic, but certainly there was more to it than just this dictator at the top. Nope, dictator at the top, dictator died, Emerald Chain fell apart in an afterthought. In fact, that's a down. That's a down. I'm sticking to that one. That's a down. And yet, I do like the idea of the Federation coming back together. We knew Navarre was going to help. I do like that it wasn't Deus Ex Machina. Where they leave the show, I don't know. It didn't have that kind of, give me the next episode straight away feel to it. Burnham as captain, I'm going to say, jury's out, remains to be seen. So, fingers crossed it'll go well. What I am going to do is I'm going to give my last point of this video, it's an up, and it's going to Sonequa Martin-Green. She did so much this season with, I would say, very inconsistent writing. I think overall the season was quite good for the way it was written, and what we'll do in our podcast on Tuesday, if you'll join us, is that we'll take a look through season 3 in general. We'll concentrate a lot on this episode, but we will address all of season 3 as well, and probably will for a little while to come yet, because there's a lot to get through. But Sonequa Martin-Green, every single season, she is given the keys to carrying this show, like it or love it. And that's not to say that everybody else isn't good, because they are, but she is put front and center. Now, the story has left her. There is no longer any doubt or wiggle room for this. She is the captain of Discovery. She is the star of the show, and her character is now the captain. I suppose, you could argue that Sisko didn't have quite the same journey, obviously, but he also started out as a commander before becoming a captain. So there is precedent for, the non-captain being the star of the show. It remains to be seen. I am totally sold. I will be back for season 4, no problem. I hope you will all join me at that point. For now, however, that is it. We do not have a preview to go through for next week because season 3 is done. Season 4, who knows when it'll be along. We know it's currently filming, so that is good news. So yes, unfortunately, to those of you who feel that Alex Kurtzman has been fired 25 times this week, unfortunately, we're still waiting on confirmation of that, so keep an eye out. But for everybody else, we will be back for season 4. Star Trek Discovery will be back for season 4. We will continue with our podcast, so please tune in on Tuesday. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for joining me this season. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can find us over on Twitter at TrekCulture. You can find me at Seán Ferrick. Thank you so much to all the work that Chris Thompson has put in this week in editing all of these videos. And guys, please join us on Tuesday for the podcast. In the meantime, and always, please make sure that you live long and prosper. You've all been awesome.